How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Data here, and welcome back to the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode, episode number 16, headed into the 2027 draft and off-season. In the last one, we had a heartbreaking exit in the postseason when we lost in 7 games to the Carolina Hurricanes. After having beaten the Senators in 7 in round number 1, we went the distance against Kochetkov and the Hurricanes in round number 2, but ultimately our goaltending let us down as we had some MVP performances from Leon Draisaitl, who scored 24 points in 14 games. Down here, actually they're not here anymore since they retired. Gino Malkin, Sidney Crosby, especially Malkin, 40 years old, still putting up point per game performances. And come the end of the postseason, it was officially the end of the first part of our mandate as Crosby and Malkin retired to join Chris Letang, who retired the season prior. Thus now moving us into phase 2 of this franchise mode, which is setting ourselves up for the future. Now already we are set up quite well. Our first line will not be changing next season. Draisaitl, DeBrincat, and Gensel. Our top pair D is Morrissey and Ekblad. We still have a great team. Now we're going to be starting to infuse more youth as Berkeley Catton moves into a larger role. Hopefully Braden Yeager and Camlin Lind and other players in our system will be able to make the jump sooner rather than later. But our biggest concern was definitely the goaltending, as I mentioned before. Blomqvist now up to an 85 overall, and Blackwood, who's at an 84. We tried to give them, we kind of went back and forth as no one was really speaking to us. Both goalies ended below 900 in their save percentages and allowing above 3 goals against per game. Despite the incredible offense, we were allowing way too much to keep up with it. So it was an exit in round number 2 against a team that we probably could have beaten. Kochetkov was strong. Draisaitl did end up winning the Art Ross, and DeBrincat won the Lady Byng. We also saw Blomqvist and Blackwood share the Jennings, and Draisaitl won the Ted Lindsay and the Rocket Richard. So we got some hardware. We did well. We had a deep run, probably deeper than most would have thought, with Malkin and Crosby still being in our top 6 at the advanced age that they were in. But they're now gone, and we're moving into the next phase, which begins here in the 2027 off season. Headed into this off season, we don't have a ton of necessary things to do in terms of things like re-signing. We got to look at Ryan Graves, probably the biggest one. Aside from that, depth pickups. We'll have over 30 million to try and find what is likely going to be a couple of top 6 forwards, maybe a top 4D, maybe a new goalie depending on who drops to the free agency class. We'll see that in just a moment. If we look at the potential UFAs who may be out here, not the craziest names, as we're not going to be going after Quinn Hughes, Victor Hedman, maybe a winger like Kubalik or Bertuzzi or Lekin. We'll see what happens. And in terms of the goaltending, the only one I'd really want to go after is probably Kochetkov, who won, I think, 2 of the last 3 Vezina trophies, or 2 of the last 4. He's the one who eliminated us. He simulates quite well. If it does indeed happen that the Hurricanes can't hang on to him and he drops to free agency, then I'd want to look at making some sort of goaltending change. If not, we'll likely at least go through the offseason with the same tandem. But lots to discover. Lots can change very quickly in the offseason, as we well know. So before we get started, let's try and formulate a sort of game plan and see what the assistant general managers had to say in the last one. I don't think that there were more comments than usual in the last one, but I do believe that there were more longer comments than usual. So as always, as you all know, I won't be able to fit all of those into the episode itself, but I did sit down for a few hours and write out replies to all of them. So I appreciate all the effort that the assistant general managers are putting in to really put detailed thoughts into this offseason and into the franchise moving forward. So I'll do my best to skim through as much as I can. Starting off with Cheating Heels comment, who says it's time to put our stamp on this team. We have the money to go out and get some new blood while we wait on the next gen to take over. Draisaitl, DeBrincat, they can still lead the offense. Morrissey, Ekblad can still lead the defense. We'll want to get Crosby and Malkin in the coaching system as well. Cheating Heel is okay to run it back with our 2 goalies and hopes that their playoff performance was an anomaly. They've been solid for years now, so I'd give them another chance. If we really want to make a change, not sure how he simulates and what his demands are, but I love Kochetkov, so maybe he'd be an option. Kochetkov actually won back-to-back Vezina trophies, not 2 of the last 3. He's won 2 in a row. we could then use the value of one of our 2 goalies to get help elsewhere. So again, there will be other goalies available, but I think the only one that would really make me say that a move is necessary would be Kochetkov. Kind of like the Draisaitl situation. Golden Gamer mentioned that in his comments, so it'll be interesting. We lose to Draisaitl, we pick him up, we win a cup. We lose to Kochetkov, maybe we pick him up. You know, if you can't beat him, then sign him. Kind of like a Danny Cordray situation from The Office, for any reference, if any fans who get that. I made a Seinfeld reference last episode, Office reference this episode. Continuing on, if you think of having Lundstrom as second-line center, extend him long-term right away before his demands jump, should he start to produce. But I'm quite content to have him as third-line center. Unfortunately, we're also still running with rust in our lineup. We thought that was going to be the last year, but there's still 1 more year of rust. So at this time, the offense could look like a top 6 of Draisaitl, DeBrincat, Gensel, and Catton, leaving 2 spots available no matter how we kind of make permutations. The third line could be DiMaio, Lundstrom, and Rust, but I think I'd want DiMaio at least on that second line. So I think it's more 2 spots within the top 9 than 2 spots within the top 6. Depends if we can really get DiMaio in there, then where Jaeger would fit, because then Robinson, Jaeger, Neighbors, Lind. We have a lot of our young players coming in as depth now. It's time to put them in the team. Even if Jaeger and Lind don't grow as we expect in the offseason, at 22 years old and after having played 2-3 years in the AHL now, we need to have them on the club if we want to see them develop. It's time that they get their shot, even if it's as depth or backups or whatever. It's time for them to graduate from the AHL, and prove themselves and earn their ice time in the NHL. Nothing super interesting in free agency. Maybe Hall, maybe Marchessault, Stone, Batherson, a few names that could be out there. On defense, I think we bring Graves back. We could keep Zadorov and have him play on the third pair type of thing, but we could also explore upgrading from him and trading him out. He has a solid plus-minus on a cheap contract, so I think it's time to move him out of the top 4, but I would think that we keep him on the third pair. Again, things will unravel over the course of the offseason. We'll see what happens. Let's explore the trade blocks before signing any UFAs. I think we'll definitely want to do that on July 1st. Just unfortunate that we have so much money and so little trade value, so that's why we'd be relying more on free agency. Some suggestions for the draft. We'll definitely be going after the Swedish goaltender, Smirnov, and that's about it. Great video once again, Data. Rabid fans still believe in your ability to win another cup this year. Go Pens. Appreciate all of that cheating heel. Louis Malard said, wow, with the retirements, you basically have a blank canvas. Bertuzzi and Batherson could be interesting pieces for the top 6 for sure, but the D-men free agency class isn't sufficient at all. It goes from 87 to 84 pretty quick, but Vince Dunn is probably the best option. Just be wary of the cap space with upcoming contracts like Lundstrom, and I believe you'll be fine. Merci beaucoup, Louis. Next comment coming from Masink, correct me if I'm wrong. Crosby and Malkin bow out with at least 1 more cup under their belt together. Malkin being a beast in his last playoff run was nice despite the result. Really gonna miss those 2. Now that there's a lot of opening up in terms of the forward core, it's definitely time to get younger. Second line center and second line right wing are unfilled, unless we bring up DiMaio, but still, I see what you're saying. Can Catton make the leap to be that kind of guy, either down the middle or on the wing? I like Lundstrom at third line center, but maybe even he can step up to take that spot too. I think signing a couple of middle 6 forwards around the ages of 26 to 31 to some deals that are only maybe 2 to 3 years long could be all right. I think I'm on board with that as well. Of course, depending on the class, blah, 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 but I think that's a good way to think about it. It gives them time to prove themselves and gives you flexibility to trade them away when expiring or at the draft. You could go for a big name for the second right wing spot or even the first line, though DeBrincat is more than great on that first line. Defensively, you may want to go after someone for the second pair. I couldn't agree more. Graves is good, and I think he'd be good to bring back, but maybe pair him with a two-way guy who's around 83 to 85. Smith and Zadorov can be together on the third pair, but we'll have to see what happens, because if Pickering goes up in overall, maybe that bumps somebody out. Smith just had a career year, but Zadorov's been really good. Lots of decisions that we can't make quite yet. Goaltending-wise, let's hope it was just a tough outing this year in the playoffs. Not entirely sold on Blomqvist, I agree, being the guy, but he's on a cheap deal. You can live with it. Blackwood has been our guy though, and he was a big part of that last cup win and a big part of the team since the acquisition. I can see him being a little unhappy if he's usurped by Blomqvist next year. I would watch how Mac Black performs and possibly explore a trade for him if need be. I think going unchanged in net is fine though, especially with how well they've performed in their regular season. Again, fully agree. I think the only way that a move is forced is if Kochetkov's in free agency and we say that it's the right price. All in all, after the retirements and re-signings, you'll have a decent amount of cap to play with. The team as is on paper isn't as gutted as expected with the Crosby and Malkin retirements. Pretty good position to be in to keep competing for a cup. Very well written comment, and thank you very much for it. Next comment coming in from Kronos, who had a lot to say, but I want to zoom in just on the ending. First up, of course, we want to get Sid and Gino in our coaching staff. But for the signings, obviously this could change as players resign with their teams, blah, blah, blah. But I think you hit the nail on the head. First, I think we try to re-sign Ryan Graves, and next, I think that Zadorov might be the odd man out. I could see a signing of Brendan Carlo for a few years, as he's a big defenseman that is solid in his own zone, or maybe even a trade to replace him. Whichever route you go, I have full confidence in your decisions and the collective hive mind of the assistant general managers. With the jersey retirement ceremonies in the coming year, I'm most definitely buying my season tickets for the 2027-28 season. Kronos, I'll see you in the front row, buddy. Thank you for the comment. Dan had some off-season thoughts that mostly centered around Tyler Bertuzzi coming in free agency, and of course going after Palapuz, the guy that we looked at in the draft. It's going to be somewhere in the second round. But I really want to highlight how Dan was the one person who got the thumbnail reference last episode from the Seinfeld episode. Crosby and Malkin went farther to the left of the slash than anybody had ever dreamed. Let the boys rest up this offseason, enjoy some Twix and Arby's, and get ready to rock for year number 5. Good luck this offseason, and go Pens. Dan, I appreciate you, buddy. Our last comment will come from Pat over in the Discord server, who left some thoughts. Number 1, I would aim to have DiMaio in the top 6. He could develop really well and already has the scoring touch. He scored 21 goals as a rookie on the third line last year. Maybe find someone to be a line mate for him and Catton on that second line. But speaking of Catton, going to point number 2, Pat doesn't trust Catton at all. He's a playmaker with 99 passing, but he barely shoots, which is simulation death for offensive players. I am inclined to trade him while he has amazing trade value before his entry-level contract ends. Since I know that's unlikely and unpopular, I just would not expect much from him. Feels like a future 89 overall guy who will make $9+ million to just put up 65 points on the first line. That may very well be the future, and I wouldn't say I'm committed to Berkeley Catton just yet, but he did grow from an 83 to an 85. He does have that 99 passing and all those X factors. I think getting him with good scorers will be the best possibility to showcase his talents, and if he doesn't thrive with those opportunities and he doesn't run with them, then we can explore from there. While he's still on an ELC, I don't think we'll do it just yet. And for point number 3, with NHL 24 coming soon, I expect the big sim to also come soon, where we sim towards year 15, year 20, etc. If I'm Sean Avery is correct and Jamson and Stolarz, 2 of our created players, are too wonky to rise in overall, go and get them before they turn 26, pair them up, and they will be undervalued simulation gods. Plus the fun story of reuniting the WHL teammates. So I think that's a good plan to have. Thank you, Pat. Not only that we don't want to commit too huge to Catton just yet, but also that we want to try and get DiMaio into our top 6 next season. So not looking at the entire forward core, but just thinking about the top 6 for free agency, you got to think that the top 6 right now is 1, 2, 3, Draisaitl, DeBrincat, Gensel. Catton is 4. If DiMaio is 5, that leaves a 6th spot open, and then Lundstrom, Rust, and fill in the blank can be on the 3rd line. We sign a top 9 guy who can slot up, and there you have it. Again, we got to see what happens in free agency, but that is the game plan as we head into the draft now. So a bit of a longer comment section than usual. Thank you for bearing with me. A lot to think about after so much has changed to this franchise over the last couple of years. We got to figure out our plan moving forward. We have the 28th overall selection in this draft, so not a ton going on here at the top. The first pick up for grabs is pick number 9. After looking at the picks that are available for trade and the players that are available, I don't think a trade would make sense for us here at all to move up. If anything, I think we'd be moving down. Of course, as always, elites are at the top, but it's pretty dry after that. All top 6 forwards who are 3 years away, guys who are mid-60 overall that you can get in round 2 and round 3. The medium elite here at like 14 is tempting, but it would cost more trade value than it's worth probably, because there are medium elites that are going to be there later on. So I think I'm content to just go ahead and simulate to our pick at number 28 and see if we even make that pick. Yeah, because I'm pretty confident that we're moving down, but let's check it out. Top guy was only 78 overall. Tough draft class. 77, 76. Yes, median elite 77 here. Mancari. Top 6s. And there you go. Drops off right away by pick number 7. You're at 65 overalls who are medium top 6. Guys you find in round 2, round 3. So, yeah, was not worth trading up here. That medium elite was 62 overall. I bet he had some X factors as well. Yeah, he did. So, not a bad selection. Just, it wasn't going to be worth trading up for him, I don't think. Medium top 6s all the way through medium top 4D. Here at pick number 28 now, does anything interest us? There could be Jesus Crosby. After Crosby retires, we get Jesus Crosby. 3 years away, offensive defenseman. I don't think it would make sense for us, though. I think it would make more sense to trade down and get more picks and more value for guys who we are going to get like at medium elite later on. There is this guy, low elite, Kato. We definitely want to get Palapuz, actually. Dylan Palapuz is only a year away at 18 years old, so that means he's probably like a low 70 overall player, which is higher than all these guys in the first round. Guillermo Cato, low elite, 3 years away. We can't get much, though. We don't have a lot of trade value here. And Nordquist, too. I really want this guy. 6'5" power forward. 6'5" power forward. 4 years away, but Nicholas Nordquist, this guy looks like a tank. 217 pounds. Even like the top 6s are all around here. So if I could trade down from pick 28 and get 2 picks in the early 40s, that would be ideal. So let me see what I can do here. And if any teams want to make a deal like that, this is 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Now, no one wants to make trades over here. No, too risky. So I think we just got to trade for one at a time probably. Unless we get Vegas's 2 picks. Probably still a bit too early, though. 33, 34, 35, 36, and 38 might cost a little bit too much. Plus, they're not on the block, which changes things a lot. Like, I could try to get this pick from the Coyotes and offer and like say, I'll give you the first round pick, you give me your second round pick and a 7th, and they'll say no. And I'll go to the Islanders and I'll ask for the same thing, but instead of a 7th, give me a 6th, and they'll say yes. All because they want to move that selection. So wanting to move the pick has a ton of value attached to it. So Islanders, can you give me, let's see, even a 6th and a 7th. Let's see what happens here to move up from 37 to 28. What do you say? Rejected, of course. In the real world, that would go through. Just the 6th then, and there you go. All right, my prediction came true. Just a 6th, and there you have it. Thank you, Lou. So we'll trade down from our pick at 28. They're going to get some sort of top 6 forward. No, Jesus Crosby is a top 4D. Going to pick number 37 now. We'll go ahead and select Palapuz. Yeah, no one interesting here. This goalie medium elite was interesting, but there are other medium elites later on that we'll get for much cheaper value. So, hey, another S. Avery in the league. Saul Avery. So, slight-ish reach. Where's our guy? Okay, there he is. My goodness, I thought I got a heart attack for a second there. I thought he was gone. I saw Tarnkvist. I forgot that it's actually Nordqvist that we want, so I got scared. Okay, so with the 37th overall selection, our first pick of the 2027 draft, we'll take Dylan Palapuz from the Lethbridge Hurricanes of the WHL. A+ shooting, which is really interesting to me. 1 year away. I'm hoping for like 4-star shooting and 72 overall. There's my prediction. Dylan, welcome to the Penguins, Bello. You are, hey, 72 overall! Hold on, is he 4 stars? If he's 4 stars, I'm a wizard, and EA needs to sign me up right now. Palapuz, show me the shooting. 3.5. All right, almost. The prediction. So 3.5-star shooting, 4-star skating, 18 years old, and the close quarters superstar ability. Yeah, I will definitely take that for a second-round pick, especially the 72 overall. Getting similar attributes, but a guy who's in the low 60s is very different than getting Palapuz, who was like point per game in the WHL. And yeah, okay, very good. Very happy to see that. Let's simulate a bit more towards that next pick that I want to make for, his name was Nordquist, was that it? Let's go towards pick 41. No one wants to trade around here, eh? The Red Wings here at 40, was that 45? It would be pushing it. That might be a bit risky. 3 more picks. Would he make it to 3 more picks at 46? You know what? We should make it. Yeah. We should make it for Nordquist. He's going at 47. That guy at 41 still out there. We should make it. So let's see what Detroit says if I want this pick from them. I really don't want to give much in terms of picks for this season because there are some good value players later on. Maybe a 5th next year, a 7th the year after, and this guy Pristola, who we drafted in the 6th round of 2025, 22 years old, 68 overall, low top 4D. I'll give you the rights to this prospect and a 5th and a 7th. Sweeten it just a touch. I don't think it would make sense to go a year later for another 7th. I think we got to go a 6th in 2028. I'll take out the 7th in 2029. Can you add a 7th in 2028? All these picks matter in future years when you have guys who are low elite that can become crazy developmental type guys. Still too far off. All right, 5th and a 6th, trade accepted. All right, thank you, Detroit. We get that done. Stevie Y, thank you kindly. Pick 45. Our guy is still there. Lovely. I think it'll be worth it. Hopefully, if he's low elite, maybe he has X factors. I'm really hoping it's worth it. He's 18 and 4 years away, so I doubt his overall is very high, but I love that 6'5" presence out there. Nicholas, welcome. You are 61 overall, low elite, 6'5", and look at those superstar abilities. Unstoppable force, zone ability, total eclipse, truculence, off the rush, back at you, no contest. It's a full board of X factors for Nicholas Nordquist. Okay, we'll take that. Unfortunate that we have to lose out on a 5th and a 6th, but we get a low elite prospect guaranteed right here, right now. All right, so our next pick is number 92. Do we see anyone that we really want to go for between now and 92? Yes, there are tempting guys. Yes, there are medium top 6s. Yes, there are medium top 4D. I'm saying guys who really stand out and make me say we got to move up for this person. Medium elite goalie, we can pass. Medium elite goalie, again, we can pass. Low top 6, medium elite, Smirnov. Yes, Smirnov, we want to get him. He's 19 and 2 years away, so that means he could be high 60 overalls, maybe even a 70 overall, but medium elite potential, A- shooting as well. Yeah, I'll try to swing a trade for something around pick number 70. New York, can I give you a 3rd, the 92nd overall pick, and the rights to Ansons and O'Connor? O'Connor, I think he's going to be a good piece in Pittsburgh in the real world, good depth, but for some reason he never grew beyond 76 overall here. I say for some reason, now he's buried in the AHL, but for a good few years he was playing first line, second line AHL, never budged. So Ansons and O'Connor, who we're not going to be re-signing, and a 3rd to New York, too far off. All right, so let's try adding pick 188, unfortunately, and trade accepted. All right, thank you, New York. Another trade with them. And we'll go ahead and simulate to pick number 69, where we'll take Smirnov. Yeah, very good. Bobelev, actually, medium elite 66 overall. Is he 19? No, he's 18. Good selection here. But we have a couple of medium elites in store for us in, like, I think it's around 4 or 5. All right, Smirnov from Estonia. We have great success from Estonia in channel history when I think of Nico Haikila from the Sharks series. So Dmitry Smirnov, welcome to the organization, my friend. The Estonian. He is 71 overall. Okay, medium elite, not even low elite, I forgot. Medium elite, 71 overall, 19 years old. Yes. No X factors, but already good. Well, I say good, just non-wonky attributes. Well-rounded, 85 stick checking, 2.5-star physical. Nice. Dimitri, welcome to the team. I'm very happy to have him on board. Now our next pick comes at number 124. Anyone really want between now and 124? Great draft class for defense. Lots of low top 4D out here, even medium top 4D. But I gotta think I have to be really someone special for me to want to jump up from 124 if we don't have the value to do much more. Lots of low top 4D. I don't think so, eh? No, we'll go ahead and sim to our next pick, and maybe we'll trade down and try to get one of our two goalies. Our goalies that we want to get are Wow at 141 and Jorgensen at 144. Which one do we want to go after? At least one, if not both. So I'd want picks in the 140s. And we don't have any, so maybe I can find a way to move 124 and 165, a 4th and a 6th for 2/5. I'll see if any team is picking twice in that range. All right, so it's a bit higher than I'd like, as 129 and 132 are definitely earlier than 140, but it would save us from having to make 2 separate trades. Minnesota, what do you think about a 4th and a 6th for 2/5? All right, trade accepted. Thank you very much. Even though on paper it's 4th and a 6th for 2/5, that 4th into a 5th was not a big change. So, all right, we'll go to pick number 129, the beginning of round number 5. I'd like to get both those goalies just because of how we all know goalies are are what they are in this game. Having more goalies in the system than any other position is probably what is most helpful, especially with how quickly you go through them, and worst case, you move on from them. So Amrit Wow, someone correct me here, from USA Central. Amrit doesn't have great numbers for a D-rated league and is 4 years away. Meanwhile, Jorgensen actually, those are really good numbers for an A-rated league. Also 5 years away, but Jorgensen also as a gem seems to be like the guy. So let me take Jorgensen with my first pick, because that's the guy I like more. Frederick, welcome. 59 overall, medium elite. Okay, thank you. Great numbers. Really surprising for 59 overall, playing in an A-rated league. And then at pick number 132, should we take another goalie? I just said how important it is to have a couple, or at least a lot of them in your system. There is no one else that really speaks to me, so it could be a medium top 4D actually. This guy, Jacob Shantz, offensive defenseman, 5 years away, classic E skating. These guys don't know how to skate. Yeah, I'll just go for the goalie. I'll just do the goalie. I'm not going to overthink it here. Let's go for Amrit. Welcome from USA Central. Bienvenue à l'équipe. He is 59 overall as well. Both medium elite, both 59 overall, both in the same round of the same draft. We'll see who comes out on top as the years go by. 47 puck playing frequency. Okay. Saw 47. Just wanted to see what that was all about. Pick number 156 now, which is potentially the final pick of the draft. We could potentially make a trade for somebody else, but I do see a low top 6 guy out there. There are a couple of guaranteed low elites. Ooh, hard to say no to that. Emiliano Costi has to be the first guy we go after. 5 years away, but when it's late in the draft, you're just going after the potential. Low elite, 53 overall. Beautiful. Emiliano, welcome. Okay. We have no more selections in this draft, but there are some low elite guys out there. Even this guy, like I said, the low top 6, Lorenzo Martin, also 5 years away with the E skating, classic. Anyone else beyond the low elites? So Sharp, who is a defensive defenseman. 3-bar low elite power forward, probably just pass on him. There's a few guaranteed low top 6 forwards, a lot of guaranteed low top 6 forwards between now and the end of the draft. Oh, I'd love to snatch all of these up. Markus Dadonov, a Ukrainian. Verkunin, a Finn. Oh boy, any defensemen as well? Low top 4D out there? Yeah, there's low top 4D. Quinville, guaranteed low top 4D. Kelvin Quinville, great name. I would swap like a future 7th for a 7th. Actually, oh, this guy is 17. That's even better. Corey Sharp. Getting a low elite 19-year-old is one thing, but a low elite 17-year-old? Let's see if I can swing it. Just digging into the, scraping the bottom of the barrel for trade value. All right, Chicago, I'm going to give you a 6th in 2 years and a 7th next year for a 6th now and a 7th next year. Hoping that you're just going to be worse than me. A 6th and a 7th for a 6th and a 7th. Just, two businessmen doing business. What do you say? Trade accepted. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and sim to pick number 182 and take that last guy. We could be here all day taking low elites and guys who look interesting to us, but the value, again, we just don't have it. We're squeezing. The well is very dry. So Corey Sharp from USA Central, defensive defenseman, 17 years old, probably 49 overall. Welcome to the team. You are 51 overall, low elite, and again, at 17, I will take that. Very good. There is the draft, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and end it off there. Some good selections for us. We got a good number of players. Palapuz, Nordqvist, Smirnov, Jorgensen. Guys who I'm pretty excited about. Not just guys with potential like the ones who are late. Players who I think could be decent pieces for us. So what I'll do now, let's advance a couple days and see, or just one day. We got to re-sign some scouts. Yeah, okay. So I'll take care of the scouts and we'll get into the re-sign phase and see what, most notably, Graves is asking for and what some other depth guys are asking for. All right, they're taken care of. Now let's head into the contract screen and break out the calculator with the $32.315 million that we're playing with. All expiring, starting off with Ryan Graves. I'm hoping for something like $5 million from him. All right, 3 years at 5.2. I could do 3 years on him. I'll bring him to 35, even if he doesn't play the whole thing. 5.275. 85% of that is 4.48. So I won't bring it all the way down to 4.5, but I think let's try 4.8 8.5. Let's try and meet in the middle, not cheese it too much, but also let's have a little bit of a discount for being on such a good team. I'm sure that he wants to be here for the final, like, big contract of his career. 3 years at 4.85 for Ryan Graves. Jason Zucker to stay on as a 4th line, 13th forward kind of guy. It's nice to have a veteran. We really don't have any left aside from, like, Brian Rust in terms of players who have been here the entire franchise mode. He's still serviceable enough. He scored 10 goals in 50 games this past season. Why not? We have the money. He wants 1.35. Let's see if we can get him down to 1.2. If he wants it, I would be willing to give it to him. 1 year at 1.2. Ian Mitchell is pretty good as a depth defenseman, but if he wants like 1.6, 1.5, 1.2, no, still too much. I can get guys like this for league minimum 2-way contracts. He was solid enough, 11 games, 1 goal. I thought maybe he had played more, but we'll release him. He was a great waiver pickup. Thank you for your service, buddy. Robinson, we paid him 2.5 last year. He did pretty well in a 4th line role. I could probably see him continuing as 4th line left wing and Zucker being the 13th forward type of thing. He scored 22 goals. He was a plus 16. Yeah, I like what Eric Robinson showed us. So I'm not going to commit to 2 years. It's hard to commit long-term on guys who are 4th line who are so, I guess, replaceable. I'll do 1 year at 1.4. Yeah, let's try that. Definitely a discount on the 2.5 he was making. Smith has been our 4th line center for, what, 3 seasons now? Nate Smith, yeah, he was a little free agent pickup. He's coming off of a career year, 20 points, a plus 8. Nate, buddy, what do you want? 1.65, I could do that. But again, I'm only going to go 1 year. No matter how much I like him, it's tough to commit when there's young players who want to come up. So 1 year, 1.4 on Nate Smith. I wouldn't mind running it back with Smith and Robinson on that 4th line. Aside from that, those are all the UFAs, correct? Hold on. Sasha Aub, we definitely want to get him in here. I'm very excited to have Sasha Aub in the AHL next year. 21st overall pick in 2025. I'm hoping that he can become a top 6 sniper someday. So Sasha Aub, he'll get 1st line minutes in the AHL. And Hakana, low top 6, a 2nd round pick in 2025. He hasn't really grown, unfortunately, but he'll get his chance in the AHL to see a little bit of growth. They're the UFAs. RFAs now, most of these guys are getting re-signed, especially Pickering. What does Pickering want? He still wants a 2... Actually, he still wants 3 years, 2-way at $1 million. So yeah, I will definitely offer Owen Pickering that if he wants to stay as an RFA-eligible player after that contract as well. I'll play around with the rest of these guys. Most of them can probably get released. I'll have to look a bit more at the AHL roster. Unsigned, I don't think anyone who's unsigned gets signed, so I'll leave that. And for the goaltenders now, Taylor Gauthier and Philip Lindberg. We don't have anyone else in the AHL system, so we could probably do 1 more year on each if they're interested. Lindberg, yeah, we could do, just for him being a channel legend, I can give him 1 more year. And Gauthier, he wants 2 years. He'll be a UFA anyways, so may as well go 2 years. And if he wants a bit more, we can go a bit more. So, okay. Let's advance a day now before I do the rest of the off-screen names here. Robinson wants more length to his contract. Graves is on board. Very good. So is Smith. Zucker doesn't like the minutes that he played last year. That's understandable. It's the final couple of years of his career. He may want some guaranteed minutes. Lindbergh wants to be in the NHL, but he's a 75 overall. Pickering, good. Hakana, okay. So we're down to $27.715 million. I'll offer a little bit more to Zucker and Robinson. I'll take care of the RFAs, and then we'll advance another day. All right, let's advance another day. Basically gave Zucker what he wanted of 1 year, 1.35, I think, and I offered about $100K more to Robinson. Scouts are signing on. That's very good. Eric Robinson's back on board. Great. Zucker wants more minutes. He's not going to get that here. So it now makes perfect sense for me to release him, I believe. I tried to keep him, but he wants his minutes. He's not going to get them here. Jason Zucker, thank you for your time here in Pittsburgh. We wish you all the best. Lindbergh, easy decision, of course. Petrov, Beliveau, Villain, okay. That's just about it. I don't think I have anybody else, just Zucker, and we're going to go ahead and release him. So there you have it, $27.19 million headed into free agency. July 1st, we'll want to re-sign or extend Morrissey ASAP. Catton, Lundstrom. Yeah, we're going to want to look at some extensions as soon as July 1st hits. So let's go ahead and get to July 1st. And here we now are. So let's see who made it to free agency and is a part of the 2027 class here on July 1st. Whoa, Quinn Hughes wanting $17.6 million. Looking at the UFAs, ooh, Tyler Bertuzzi wants a lot more than I thought. Did he just have like a crazy season? 4 years at $12 million? I don't think we can afford that. No, that was a good year, but not a crazy year. Bertuzzi just pretty much just went out the window. He's one of my prime targets. I think that's it for Bertuzzi. 12 million. He's going to have his demand come down by a lot. Lehkonen wants a lot, but at least that's more reasonable. Same for Kubalik, Stone. Maybe we go veteran. Maybe we bring back Taylor Hall. Maybe Marchessault comes in. Maybe Ryan O'Reilly, a couple of former Penguins. Maybe William Karlsson. Golden Gamer had mentioned him in his comment. All right, so I'm going to have to send out some thoughts to the assistant general managers on the Discord server for sure. I'm going to send this class to them and see if they have any deeper suggestions on it. Defensively, we see Verheuvary, but now Vince Dunn didn't drop. Marino wants 6.775 as an 84 overall. That's not going to happen. So maybe we go the trade route. As we had said, we want to check those trade blocks here on July 1st. Goaltending, did Kochetkov drop? He did not. So I was thinking about trading for his rights, but it wouldn't have made sense because if Carolina had the money to sign him, they would sign him, and they did exactly that. Carter Hart did drop. Even Gibson, Demko, some good options that could be starters here, but I'm not sure if that really forces my hand to move out Blomqvist or Blackwood. So while the assistant general managers discuss and think about some of the free agent class, I definitely want to go and extend Josh Morrissey ASAP and see what the other players want for their extensions. We have some big names here: Morrissey, Catton, and Lundstrom most notably. Morrissey making 6.25 on his last contract. He is a 60-plus point defenseman. Yeah, he wants 11.775. We do have $38 million to play with. I think he basically has to get this kind of money. As a defenseman in EA land, as this high of an overall, like you see what Quinn Hughes is asking for. So this is actually pretty cheap comparatively. 85% is 10.008. So if we were to do 4 years on Morrissey to get him to 36 years old at 10.05, this would pretty much, that would make sense. With the cap being what it is and with defensemen demanding what they're demanding, this would pretty much be it. Maybe it goes down lower later on, but it could go higher. It's just as likely that it goes higher. So I'm going to offer Morrissey 4 years at 10.05, essentially 4 years for $40 million. That would bring our money down to $28 million, but as a first pair 90-plus overall guy scoring 60-plus points a year, I think that he is definitely worth it. Berkeley Catton, he wants a pretty cheap deal, actually. We could go 4 years to keep him as an RFA. We could go like 8 years at $5 million, but I think that's too cheese. I think going 4 years to use up his RFA years after he's been good through 2 seasons, he's scoring 40-plus points a year. I don't think it would make sense for him to want 8x5, but would he want a 4x4? Even that would probably be a bit too cheese, honestly. Maybe we go 2 years and then we can do 2 more years to keep him as an RFA again. So 2 years at $4 million per year. So 2 years, $8 million. And then the next 2 years to keep him as an RFA again, we can do 2 years, whatever else, just to be a bit more fair to what he'd likely be asking for. 85 overall, who is coming off back-to-back 40-some point seasons. 2 years at $4 million makes sense, but 4 years at $4 million as a 21-year-old, probably not. So we'll go ahead and send that out. 2 years, $4 million to Berkeley Catton. Now, what about Isaac Lundstrom? 84 overall. He was making $950K. He wants $6 million. Yeah, that's a guy we'll definitely be waiting on if we even keep him. Not paying him $6 million. Had a great 50-plus point season, though. And Ty Smith wants $5 million, coming off of a career high, like 35 points. Not going to happen. So you can see, this is what defensemen are asking for. We definitely can't afford that. So Morrissey at 10 would be a steal. Rust wants 3.9, not decided on him just yet. And for goaltending, Blomqvist would be looking at 6.8 around. Yeah. All right. Keep all those things in mind, but good to have offers out to Morrissey and Catton. Lots of discussions still going on over on the Discord server, so while that happens, we want to go and check out the higher staff screen. Let's check out Sid, Gino, and any other scouts who may be out there. If I sort by age, this should be easy to find. I wonder what their overalls are. Crosby is B-, NHL associate, and Malkin is B, and he wants to be an NHL head coach. That is ridiculous. Even Patrick Hornqvist, former Penguin, is out here. I wonder what their pictures are in the... yeah, Patrick Hornqvist is in a Penguins jersey. Malkin is in one of his older pictures. I believe so. And Crosby, I'm not sure. It's interesting. When the player retires and becomes a coach, he uses one of their older pictures from previous games. So if we want to get Hornqvist, well, not Hornqvist, main priority is Malkin and Crosby. If we want to get these two signed on, we'll have to hire them to the NHL staff and then demote them. So it's going to be some more musical chairs here. Bear with me. We'll have to fire this AHL assistant coach, unfortunately, just to make the room to hire those two guys. So this Mikael Sale will be fired. I'm going to have to... let's see. Our NHL associate coach can get demoted to AHL assistant, I guess. And I'll have to hire them one at a time, probably. Actually, Crosby wants to be lower. So I'll have to leave these two spots open, yeah, and I'll have to hire Malkin as associate coach and Crosby as assistant coach. Then I'll have to fire one of these guys just to move everybody around. What a terrible system. So Malkin, I will hire you to be my NHL associate coach just for now. Then I'll have to move you around, pay you a ton of money for 8 years. Not sure why he's demanding so much money comparatively. So here's 8 years at $1.3 million to be an NHL associate coach. And Crosby, who does want to be an associate, let's see if I can sign you on as NHL assistant coach. And we'll see what happens in a few days, which we're still not quite at yet since we're still dealing with free agency and stuff like that. But we'll see in a few days what they have to say. I'll also take a moment here to sign on any new higher rated scouts who may be out here. And then we'll get back into decision-making time once we hear back from more of the AGMs. So it's a few hours later and the assistant general managers have been discussing quite a bit over in the Discord server. The consensus seems to be that this free agency class is 1, not very strong, and 2, containing many players who are asking way more than they're worth. Although we're seeing some 87 overalls who are scoring 60, 70 points, to be asking for 12 million like Bertuzzi, or let's say, even if we want Lehkonen or Kubalik, having to sign them to upwards of 9 million to make sure we get them, that's a big commitment to players who would be getting paid 9 million when they're 34, 35 years old. So we're not currently in the ideal situation for our team moving forward. We're trying to find permanent top 6, top 9 replacements. I think the options have come down to we either A, sign a short-term guy like a Marchessault or a Taylor Hall, someone who would want 5, 6, 7, 8 million and is an 86 overall, but it would only be for like 1 year. They score 50, 60, 70 points, and we move on the year after and hope that the free agent class later is stronger, which is one good option. Or we go and do what Cheating Heel mentioned, which was check out the trade blocks and see who's available. Now, that is exactly what I did, and I came up with 3 names, which I also proposed to the assistant general managers. 3 players who are on the trade block and who would kind of fit what we're looking at. The first player is Zach Hyman. Hyman is coming off of a Conn Smythe trophy. He's 35 years old, but he's an 87 overall who consistently puts up high 70s, low 80s for points, very consistently in that 78 to 84 range the last 4 years. Zach Hyman has been incredible in the simulation. He only has 1 year left, though, and is 35 years old. So would it make sense that the Oilers want to free up some money? Yes. But when Hyman just won the Conn Smythe and he's only making $5.5 million, I'm not sure that they'd want to necessarily cut bait right now, even though they'd be able to recoup some value. I'm not sure the Oilers would want to do that coming off of a Stanley Cup. The second option is Trevor Moore. Trevor Moore is a playmaker who puts up similar numbers assist-wise to Zach Hyman, 50-plus assists around per year. He's in that high 60s range for points. Trevor Moore is very interesting because he's also an 87 overall. He's a playmaker, which is better for chemistry, marginally. And he also is signed to $4.2 million, which is less, but for only 1 year. Again, it would likely include some sort of extension happening. Would he stay here beyond 1 season? I'm not sure. It kind of puts us back in the Marchessault and Taylor Hall pool. If we're getting a guy like Trevor Moore just for 1 year, why use trade value to acquire him when we could just sign someone similar and just use our cap space to do so? The last option is Nikolai Ehlers, who is signed to a 6-year deal, paying him just $20,000 shy of $9 million per season. He's 31 years old, great attributes, 5-star shooting, 5-star senses, 5-star skating, but it's coming off of a horrible season. Now, was this season an outlier? He consistently was putting up in the 60 to 70 point range throughout the simulation, but last year he only scored 42 points as a second liner. So his ice time was definitely down 5 minutes less than usual, and he scored 42 points. Now, this has brought his trade value down to an all-time low, and he's on the block in Winnipeg. However, it would mean that we're paying almost $9 million to Ehlers until he's about 37 years old. So definitely some pros and cons to those options. Let me just look at forwards here to make it a bit more clear on the screen. I know we have the other creative players pinned. So yeah, pros and cons are absolutely there. When I think about these three, Zach Hyman is a channel favorite. He is putting up crazy numbers for his age and for the money that he's making. But again, story-wise, the Oilers have won 2 cups in 3 years. Hyman's been a big part of it. He just won the Conn Smythe. I think it makes more sense that they keep him for one more year on one more run, as opposed to trying to trade him to get value for him now and move into a selling sort of phase. So I think with that information taken into consideration, as fun as it would be to have Hyman, I think we're going to eliminate him from contention. And it now comes down to Trevor Moore or Nikolai Ehlers. The trade value is pretty even, so I don't think that's a huge obstacle to get around. It comes down to what do we think Moore would want. I would have to think that it's less than what Ehlers is asking for. I think that's what's really holding me back. Ehlers, I think if I had to choose just who's the better player and who do I want for the next few years, I think Ehlers is the guy. But Trevor Moore is going to make less for this next season, which doesn't really matter. But in subsequent seasons after that, if we want to re-sign him, I would be shocked if the extension value that he's looking for is anywhere above like $7 million. To pay almost $9 million to Ehlers until the age of around 37, coming off of a career worst year, could it just be an outlier? Absolutely. But could it be a sad sign of things to come when he's making $9 million? That's also scary. If it was like 4 years, I think that would be a different story. But committing 6 years to Ehlers at almost $9 million, I don't think I want to do that, even if the trade value would work out. I think Trevor Moore is the guy. He'll put up similar numbers for less than half the cost this year, and hopefully if we could extend him right away for a cost that is at least $2 million less moving forward, and we're not committed to him long term. We could sign him until he's 35 or 36, as opposed to holding on to Ehlers until he's 37, 38. So all that being said, I think I'd like to try and swing a trade with the LA Kings to acquire Trevor Moore, who they currently do have on the trade block. They are conservative sellers, and the thing is, we don't have a lot of trade value. So here is what I'm thinking. When we look at our defense, we know that our top pair is Morrissey and Ekblad, and our second pair is Graves, and we would have liked to get a defenseman. We still could, but we're still kind of figuring out who's going to be on that second pair. Now, we could say, Ty Smith, you go on that second pair this year, you've earned it, and then Zadorov and Pickering can be the third pair, but I'm thinking maybe it's time to move Ty Smith out while his value is at an all-time high. His overall's at an all-time high, his salary's at an all-time low, and his performance is also at an all-time high, coming off of a 35-point season. He's an 82 overall, making $1.35 million, and he's asking for like upwards of $5 million. I don't think we can afford to pay an 82 overall defenseman that kind of money. So instead of having to just trade his rights later on, or even if we could swing it to get him for like 4.85 like Ryan Graves, I'm not sure I want to sign Ty Smith for a long term to be a second, third pair guy. I like Smith very much, but it may be time to try and just get value for him before we have to say, he wants 5.5, we can't afford it, we have to let him walk to free agency for free. We can use his value now to get a top 6 forward for the next few years, or at the very least for 1 year. 1 year of an 82 overall on our second or third pair, or 1 year of an 87 overall forward playing in our top 6. So if we could throw Ty Smith into a deal here, we could find some other rookie skater to throw in, maybe someone with some trade value who hasn't been growing. Actually, there was one that I saw who comes to mind right away, McAllister. Last season, we had a bunch of 49 overalls who grew a couple who grew much higher. I believe those were, Wakabayashi and Backstrom. Now, after like a season, they've grown by like 10, 20 overall. Meanwhile, McAllister still is at a 49. So I know there's still room to grow. He's low top 6. He's only 19. But I wouldn't mind moving on from him if there is someone to move on from. So Smith, McAllister, and some sort of draft pick. Actually, here's what I want to do as well. This is all coming together as I'm speaking. We don't have a third, a fifth, or a sixth in next year's draft. So what if I give you a second in a couple years from now in 2029, and you give me a third and a fourth in 2028? So I'm giving you slightly more value, but it also allows me to recoup some picks in this draft. So in 2028, I could have some picks, and in 2029, I'm only missing my second, as opposed to here missing my third, fifth, and sixth. Unless I could just do it with a third, but let me see. I could swap him a third for a fourth. What would LA say about this? Isn't sufficient at all. So yeah, that's why I'm gonna do the second for the third and the fourth. Yeah, let's see what they say to this. Los Angeles, trade rejected. Could I do a third and a fifth? I'm gonna keep working down until we get something. I don't want to just give a second straight up. I don't think that would be good for us. Too far off. I want to really get at least that third back. Let's try a third and a seventh. What do you say to this, LA? Third and a seventh. Too far off. Just the third. Trade accepted. Okay. Trevor Moore, welcome to Pittsburgh, and Ty Smith. Wow. Good luck in Los Angeles. One of the final remaining original Penguins who were here when we took over. So Ty Smith, you're going to get a good chance here on the blue line in Los Angeles. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should probably play the top 4. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And hopefully you even move on after having a solid season in the top 4 in Los Angeles, as opposed to playing more like third pair with us. It just came down to a casualty of EA, unfortunately. We can't afford to pay Ty Smith $5 million for multiple seasons. I think this was the time to cut him loose and get as much value as we could out of him, and his trade value has never and will never be higher. So with all that being said, Trevor Moore, welcome to Pittsburgh, my friend. Having done that, I think I also forgot to mention, because there were no strong centermen in the draft class, another big thing that they were saying over in the Discord server, it would make sense to bring Lundstrom, or at least to try Lundstrom, as second-line center for this next season. Another guy who we may end up losing, and maybe want to trade him sooner rather than later, but we do need someone to play out there, because if we look at the centermen who are available, it's not too pretty. Nolan Patrick, yeah. I'm not a big fan of signing Nolan Patrick in franchise mode because he's likely never playing again in the real world. Philip Danault could be interesting, but he's 34. It would just be a one-year fix. Veleno's a career 40-point guy. You know, we have Lundstrom, who just scored upwards of 50 points. All of these guys, Velarde and Hayton and Veleno, these younger guys, they're all career 30, 40-point guys. So maybe next free agency class we have someone come out who's more interesting. What would make the most sense right now probably would be to try Lundstrom as second-line center and go out and get a wing instead of a centerman. Or we don't even need Lundstrom to play center because Catton could play center. If the first line were to be, let's say, Draisaitl, DeBrincat, and a playmaker in Moore, and the second line is going to be Gensel at left wing, Catton at center, and DiMaio on right wing, or whatever else, whatever permutation you want to try, then Lundstrom and Rust play on the third line. There's a lot of different ways that we could play that middle six. But what is true is that we still need a top 9 forward, because the fourth line would still be Robinson, Smith, and like Neighbors or Nord. So I would like to go out and get a top 9 forward. Defensively, I think we definitely need to bring someone in now with Ty Smith moving out. That's probably one of the moves that hurt the most so far in this franchise mode series, because he was coming off of a career year. We believed in him when a lot of people said that it was time to move on from him. He's never going to grow from an 80 overall. I believed in him, and he delivered on that belief, but it's time to spread your wings and fly, buddy. So if we do want to go out and get a defenseman, and we look at the UFAs who are out there, again, not a super interesting class. I'd be looking at kind of like a one-year deal type of thing. John Marino wants crazy money. Josh Manson's interesting. Connor Timmins, it drops off very quickly, especially for the right side. So maybe Zadorov does play second pair with Graves, and we get a new third pair lefty to play with Owen Pickering, and then maybe even someone else as depth. There's a few ways to look at it here. So although it's not ideal, I think maybe we sign a third pair guy and hope that Zadorov can continue to play on the second pair with Graves. It's not what we wanted to do, but I'd rather start the season like that and figure it out and see what's on the trade blocks later on than have to commit 4 or 5 years and like $5 million per year to a guy who's an 83 overall. So that being said, I think Olli Määttä does speak the most to me. He has 4-star defense, good defensive attributes for an 81 overall, not asking for crazy money, and storyline, former Penguins first-round pick in 2012. He was a 22nd overall pick. His career hasn't quite panned out the way many thought it would, I think. So I wouldn't mind doing 2 years at 2.5 for Määttä just to have him in there. He could play third pair left D with Pickering being on the right. So let's see what Määttä says about that. 2 years at 2.5, and I wouldn't mind having someone on the right just more as a depth type of thing, though. I'm talking like an 80 overall kind of guy, like a Scott Mayfield here, who only wants 800K. Scott Mayfield. But I don't know, he's 34 with top 60 potential. I wouldn't mind someone who's a bit more of a guarantee to stay as an 80. Ristolainen's actually interesting. Rasmus Ristolainen, one of the more physical defensemen in the league. 6'4". Wouldn't mind getting some size in there, but would he want a 1-year deal? I would do like 1 year at 1.75 if he wants to do that, just because he's going to be kind of in a depth type of role. I'm not sure if he'll play very much. What do you say about this, Rasmus? Let's see. Rasmus Ristolainen, who last season scored 16 points, physical guy, depth role to be on this team. That's the price you pay to be on the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got to be willing to be flexible in your role. So the defensive class wasn't great. We'll still look at trades moving forward, but we are really tapped on trade value. So even if there was someone who was interesting, I think it would be almost impossible to acquire them. We are so dry on picks. I had to move that second to recoup that third just to have a decent draft class moving forward into 2028. So I think that'll just about do it for the offers that we'll send out. We had a couple extensions sent out to Morrissey and to Catton. We sent out offers to Mata and to Ristolainen. I'm going to see if there's any good youth players to try and send out deals for the AHL. And once that's all done, we can finally move forward. All right, a few offers have been sent out, and we are ready to simulate the next few days to see what the future has in store. Evgeny Malkin, welcome to the coaching staff, my friend. And we're waiting on Sidney Crosby. Nick Ehlers offered to us by the Jets. Interesting for Smirnov and Pickering. I'll have to pass. He was offered with Gustav Forsling even. Advance another day. Sidney Crosby's on board. Welcome to the team, my friend. A couple of scouts as well. All right, let's go to the coaching staff now and play our game of musical chairs. As somebody has to get fired here, and you know what? I think it's going to be the AHL head coach. His morale is the lowest. Plus, you know what? We just missed the postseason in the AHL, so we don't have any attachment to him. Dorian Shea, you're out of here. So let's play musical chairs a little bit. Presto, bingo, bongo. And there we have it. You know what? Maybe Malkin can actually stay as the AHL head coach. He wants to be an NHL head coach. He's B-rated. He has super high morale and everything. A- teaching, which is good for the AHL. You know, but 28%. But that's with such a low team. You know what? I think I'm going to leave Malkin as AHL head coach. And if it works, it works. I'll hire somebody as AHL goalie coach. But if we got to fire them, we'll fire them. If Malkin has a good fit with the team to start the year, let's just keep him as the head coach, Crosby as associate, and Kessel as assistant, and then somebody else as AHL goalie, and we could roll like that. So I'll take care of that as the offseason simulates, but let's keep advancing a few days now. Yeah, breaking news as we fire the coach there. Okay, Oli Mata says, I believe the signing will be good for myself and the franchise. Period. All right, welcome back to Pittsburgh, Oli Mata. Rasmus Ristolainen didn't like the money offer. Fair enough. He wasn't going to be in a big role. He wants to get it elsewhere. No problem. Matthew Knees signs on. Only an 80 overall in this universe. He's going to be a depth forward for us. Probably a 13th forward of the season. Maybe he fights with Nord to find a spot. Matthew Knees, maybe he can capture the magic that he once had in Toronto. Ty Nelson, who signed him on. Evan Kadri is going with Toronto. Actually, he was an RFA, so it makes sense that they match the offer, I suppose. Waiting a few more days here. Josh Morrissey, easy decision to renew the contract. Beautiful. To get such a high-scoring defenseman locked down, that is integral. And Berkeley Catton signs on as well for the next couple of seasons. Very nice. Speaking of contracts, I forgot to look at what Trevor Moore wanted as an extension. We're down to 22.5 for cap space. Trevor Moore would want 8.8 right now as an extension. But I don't think we have to really do that. Unless we do. Like, we're not in a rush here, but we could sign him right now for 3 years at like 7.5. It's a bit more than I wanted to pay. We could do it now, but I don't think we're in a rush. I think we're going to wait on Trevor Moore, and we'll see maybe come September, and I'll wait to hear back from the assistant general managers on that. So, okay, well, we're good for the moment. So as of now, with those signings, that still leaves us with the need for the top 9 forward, though. I forgot about looking at the top 9 forward. Ooh, thankfully a lot of the demands were really high, so I'm sure many people are still out here in free agency. Like Bertuzzi's ask has come down to 10 million now. Let's go UFA forwards. Ooh, my apologies. Totally forgot the top 9 forward that we needed to get. I could still see Marchessault Hall. I could still see them being a fit for us. Chandler Stevenson's interesting. No, you know what? Marchessault's really speaking to me. As a team with so much money to spend, as a guy who's getting older, wants to go after one last cup, I could see that making a lot of sense. I would like to go after Taylor Hall. We had him for that one season. We had a great time when he was here in Pittsburgh. We got him in that Bruins deal that ended up getting us the pick for DeMaio as well. One season, 53 points. He went to Buffalo and did the same in over 66 games, though. 2026 Stanley Cup champions, 18 points in 19 games. Taylor Hall, man, great memories with him. But now a team is interested. So could we do Taylor Hall 1 year, like $6 million? Or should we go after Marchessault and do, 1 year 6.5? What kind of numbers do we see from Jonathan Marchessault? 78 points last year, 69 the season prior. He's probably the better player. I think with so much money to spend, let's go after that better player. He'll be in the middle six. He'll slot up with injuries. We definitely saw that injury need last season. 1 year at 6.75. Let's see what Marchessault says about that. It's really, this offseason has been a lot more maneuvering than I thought we were going to have to do with the weak free agent class. So let's try and get him on board just as a 1 year fixed type of thing. No thank you, Tampa Bay. Let's advance a couple more days to see what Jonathan says about that. Jonathan, bienvenue à l'équipe, mon ami. Let's go. I was extremely happy to accept your offer. J'étais extrêmement content. Your cash offer was most generous. It really was quite easy to make up my mind about your offer. Ben, merci bien. Nous sommes très contents de t'avoir, mon ami. Let's get you in here and get you another Coupe Stanley. So now if we go and count out the numbers, we're down to 16.6 for cap space, which is still much more than we would need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or Cadden would be in that top 6, but let's just count out the top 9 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and Di Maio is 9. There you go. Then on the 4th line, we would have some sort of combination of Nees, Robinson, Smith, Neighbors, Petrov, Stranges, Nord, whatever. Then on defense, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, Mata 5, Pickering 6. No one else really in the system aside from Pickering who would be growing right now. We definitely want to be looking at getting defensemen in our system. We do have some interesting names, but yeah. And goaltending still always what it's been. Definitely in a perfect world, we would have gotten a defenseman here. Did Marino get that money? I guess he did. Madsen's going to get paid. Yeah, the defensemen are going to get paid big time. It's tough. Maybe Schultz on a 1 year thing as an offensive defenseman. What did he score last season? 5 goals, 9 assists, negative 27. My goodness. Other guys like Zub are interesting, but they want 3 years. Ian Mitchell could come back. He wants 800K. Yeah, let's get Ian Mitchell back in the system. Why not? Ian Mitchell, welcome back. You wanted 1 point whatever. Now you're going to come back for 800K. Beautiful. All right. So that gives us a little bit more depth defensively. But again, we won't sweat it too much yet. Let's wait till the season gets going. Let's wait till the preseason. At the end of this episode, we will take a peek at the trade blocks. Something that I'm absolutely realizing here is that I think we're going to have to make some trades at the beginning of the preseason. We have way too many like 78 overall type guys. I totally forgot about Jaeger and Lind. Of course, we want to be trying to push to make the team. So if we have all these guys in the NHL, or at least in the main roster, who are trying to get time, Neighbors, Petrov, Stranges, we got to trade some of these guys out. So we will see what happens in that regard. Let's advance to the last few days here. Just waiting on the last couple guys I sent out contracts to sign on. Like Nord gets offered a 3rd and a 4th for Nord, so I wouldn't mind moving him if we had to as a 78 overall. Ian Mitchell, what? You didn't offer me what I thought I deserved. Well, I offered you exactly what you asked for. At least we got Emile Andre on board, who's looking very good in the real world right now. Ian Mitchell, bro, come on. Maybe a guy like Dylan DeMello being out there? Yeah, veteran. Would you want to do 1 year, Dylan DeMello? Just a depth kind of guy. 1 year, 1.425. Let's just get somebody in there because we have nobody down in the AHL. Like 75 overalls are not coming up here. So, okay, that's the last thing we had to do for contracts. What we want to do now is just set up the draft class for next season. Generating a random number from 1 to 100 for the draft class quality and generated prospect quality. We'll say 1 to 25 is low, 25 to 75 is medium, and 75 to 100 is high. Generating a number here, I get 79. So a high draft class quality in the 2028 class, with the generated prospect quality being medium, just barely, as we get a 28. So a high draft class with medium generated prospect quality. That'll be good. That actually makes a lot of sense after this last draft had like 77s and 78s going in the top 5. A slightly stronger class for 2028. So that was quite the off-season indeed. Let's go ahead and sim to next season now. Let's see what kind of growth we get. If we maybe got too many players, maybe we can move somebody out like I was mentioning. Let's just see what happens and make decisions from there because it's really hard to speculate so far away in July. So we'll sim all the way to September. Everyone eat well, train hard, enjoy time with the family, and let's get excited for another run at the Cup. I hope that the time away gets us that much more excited for another season together. So let's sim to next season and we'll pick up from the beginning of the preseason. So here's how the lines are looking to begin the year number 5 preseason. Moore, Draisaitl, and DeBrincat on the top line. It only gets a +3 because Moore doesn't have any X factors, but having a playmaker there with 2 shoot-first type of players may not be a bad thing for that line. On the second line, DiMaio as a shooter is on the right, and Gensel as a shooter as well as on the left, with the playmaker of Catton, 85 overall with 99 passing, Berkeley Catton, down the middle. That gets a +5 on the second line. On the third line, if we go Lundstrom, Jaeger, and Marchessault, it gets a +2. Jaeger's up to a 79 overall now, so at least it makes more sense to have him in the NHL. And the fourth line would be Knees, Smith, and Rust. Now, if we hadn't gotten Marchessault, Rust would be here on the third line. Part of me is saying, I did too much in the offseason. We didn't need Marchessault, and I forced it. But you know what? Rust is 35. He is only here because of a no-trade clause. He scores 40 points a season. He's gone after this year. Maybe Marchessault is as well. But if I only have 1 year, and it has to be Rust on the third and like Robinson on the fourth, or Marchessault on the third, who just scored like 70 points and he'll get power play time, and then Rust on the fourth, and you can also get penalty kill time, I think the latter is what makes more sense for us. So Rust will kind of be in the position that Zucker has been in. If we don't like it, we could always change it, but that's how I'm just kind of thinking about things at the beginning of the preseason. You never know. Maybe Marchessault moves up to the second line, or Lundstrom moves up to the second line because DiMaio can't cut it. I don't know. On defense, we still have the same top pair of Morrissey and Ekblad with the +3. Zadorov and Graves would get a +1, and the third pair, Pickering and Mata, has a 0. Pickering, no growth, still a 77 at 23 years old. I'm getting close to being willing to do drastic things here. Like, I'll take Pickering, I'll take DeMello as if he never existed, I'll take Nord, and I'll just trade for a right-handed defenseman who at least is an 80 overall at 22 or something. I don't know. Like, I'm getting desperate out here. Blomqvist is still at an 85. Blackwood is still at an 84. Healthy scratches, we see DeMello at an 80, and we have Robinson and Nord as the forwards. So Noel Nord, I don't know, maybe we'd want to keep him, but I doubt he could really ever be much more than like a fourth liner for us. You know, he's a former second-round pick. He scored 8 goals in 48 games. He didn't get the greatest opportunity to thrive in the NHL. Maybe we should give him more of a chance before we just cut him loose. But that could be something that we think about. I don't know. That's how the forwards look right now, and the defense as well. Down in the AHL, we'll get Petrell getting some ice time. He's a 73 now. Obb's a 75. Lind, we're definitely going to get him at least on the top line, but he's only a 77. Should we push for Callan Lind to make the NHL this year? It would be his 3rd season in the minors. Last year was not great, only 33 points. His ice time was similar to the year before when he scored 44. So we'll definitely, with Jaeger gone, be pumping him like first line, first power play, first penalty kill, everything. Would it make more sense to keep Callan Lind in the AHL? I think so, especially if we are pushing Jaeger to the NHL. Maybe third line center is too much for him as well. Maybe he goes down to the 4th, Rust comes up to the 3rd, and then Lundstrom becomes third line center. Maybe the line looks something like this, where Rust doesn't have to play on the 4th line if we think that that's too crazy of a storyline to have. We could have this as our lineup as well. This makes just as much sense. So I'll leave it as this for the moment, but yeah, that bottom 6 can be played around with a little bit. Who knows what's happening with DiMaio? That's where we look like. That's what we look like at the moment. Now, looking at and considering the jersey numbers, the game does assign Draisaitl the captaincy. I think at least until I have a consensus from the assistant general managers, we're going to try 3 alternates. I think it would make sense to give 1 to Morrissey, 1 to Draisaitl, and probably the other one to the longest-serving Penguin, which would be Brian Rust. Where'd he go? There he is. I think that's what would make the most sense. Also, now that Marchessault is here, he can't be wearing number 81 as that's retired for Phil Kessel, but I don't see anyone wearing 87, 71, or 58, so just Marchessault. I believe he's also worn 18 and 42 in the past. 18 is already taken by Zadorov, so we'll give him number 42 here. There you go. Merci beaucoup, Jonathan. And that about does it in that regard. So we'll run Draisaitl, Rust, and Morrissey as the 3 alternates for now, but that could always change. Ekblad, he has leadership experience. DeBrinket's been here a while. Gensel's been here a while. I forgot to mention him as an original Penguin as well. I kept saying that it was just Smith and Rust. It's now Rust and Gensel as the last remaining original Penguins when we took over. So that's about it for what we can do in this offseason, ladies and gentlemen. It was a very long one, so thank you for bearing with me. We see some great growth from our rookies here, as Rensfeld's up to a 72, Wakabayashi's at a 71. Maybe some of these unsigned guys should crack the AHL lineup, I don't know. But speaking of that, we do need to consider that we have an abundance of those 78, 77 overall fringe guys. So if we were to make a trade, I'm about to look at the trade blocks in just a moment. If we were to make a deal, this is Robinson's trade value, Nord's trade value. Put them all together. Even, I don't know, Nees, Smith, Petrov, Neighbors. Probably Neighbors is a guy that's primed to move as well. Svikovsky. I don't know about Pickering. I'm really not high on him. I'm not impressed. Maybe we trade back with the Kings to get Ty Smith. I don't think that would work out. But just to say, there's a lot of players out here that we could move on from and replace with AHL guys or even prospects in our system. So if we were to put all those trade values together, add in a pick, add in Pickering or whatever else, we could get someone who's somewhat decent. So here are the trade blocks around the NHL. Feel free to leave any suggestions for right now or for later in the season. As next episode, we'll be going through the entirety of the 2027-28 season. Of course, if you're in the Discord server, there's also times where I'll ask you for live suggestions there. So over on the Ducks, I didn't mention Fowler and Shea, 2 defensemen, Valmaki, Haig, Phillips, Middleton in Arizona. Boston has Forbort on the block. He just signed on. Former Penguin Joseph, P.O. Joseph as well. Is Krejci still here? Yeah, he's 41. He's back in Boston making $5.8 million. That's incredible. Calgary, Anderson, and Uyghur. A great right-handed defenseman, but 7 years at 10.45 wouldn't really work out. Prospects in Carolina, Chicago prospects, Colorado prospects, Columbus prospects, including Denton Mateychuk. Prospects in Dallas, Detroit prospects, a lot of prospects out here. Edmonton, O'Connor, Vesalainen, Sveshnikov, Evgeny Sveshnikov, Noah Cates. Florida, Lehkonen, who just signed on, Bennett, Reinhart, LeBanc, Bluger, Fast. Then in LA, we see mostly prospects. Minnesota, Eriksson Ek, 2 more years on his deal. Formenton, Saad, and Josh Anderson. The Canadians, Caleb Jones, Walker, Kerfoot, Clegg, Mete, who's back in Montreal. No one in Nashville. Devils, no one. Well, not no one, but no one really of much note. Islanders, we see prospects, including Kivi Haru. Rangers, prospects. Senators, Raquel, former Penguin Raquel. Norris, Zaka, Klingberg, Barry, and Borgstrom. Philadelphia, prospects. San Jose, Hurdle, Mikheyev, Jenner, and Pacioretty. Seattle, prospects. St. Louis, prospects. Tampa Bay, prospects. Toronto, Batherson, Verhaeghe, Kempe, Krause, Tavares, Bear. Lots of names in Toronto on the block. Vancouver, Kasha, who just signed. Besser, Carlson, JT Miller, Teravainen, Mantha, Skinner, Lazar. Vegas, Shea Theodore. Lefty, righty. Shea Theodore is left-handed, but he could play on that right side. Interesting. Knyzhov, Lindgren, Susie, and Chatfield. Crazy contract there for Knyzhov. Washington prospects and Winnipeg. Ehlers still on the block there in Winnipeg. Forsling, Grzelcyk, and Carrier also out there. There are all the trade blocks leading into year number 5, ladies and gentlemen. The season that will be the first of our second half of our mandate here with the Penguins, now that Crosby, Malkin, and Letang are all gone. A few different ways we could have played this offseason. It was a very long one. I like what we did in the draft, but free agency was a bit of a surprise. Moore being acquired by trade gets a great playmaker in the top 6. Marchessault also in here, kind of like a one-year thing for fun, I guess, just to kind of stay as strong as possible, as opposed to having to force Jaeger onto the third line. We can always try and retcon something if we really hate it and trade someone for like a 7th round pick. It's always impossible to know growth, so I can kind of rationalize it in that sense. Part of me thinks that maybe Marchessault could have just entered the top 6. We didn't need more. Then we could have kept Ty Smith, and our defense would have been stronger because I think defense is a glaring hole right now. If we move out Pickering, then Zadorov plays the third pair, but then Mata gives it a -2. We could retcon that as well. I don't know. I'm just trying to do my best out here, and I'm very much looking forward to your comments on the lineups in the NHL and the AHL. Do we bring Callan Lind up? What do we do with some of our unsigned prospects? Some of the guys who are fringe guys who have trade value? Should we be adding or removing any X factors? Who do we like on the trade block that could be acquired either now or towards the deadline? Goaltending thoughts. There's a lot to say after this offseason because there's a little bit of uncertainty with certain positions moving forward. We do see of our unsigned prospects, these are the overalls at the moment if we want to get anyone else on board. I think the future is very, very bright. Lots of low elites, medium elites, but right now we have fringe type players, guys we're trying to get value out of while also staying competitive and signing high overall players to fit in. It's a weird time, and I'm talking way more than I should be, so thank you for bearing with me. I'll leave you off there because I could just probably go another 10 minutes. Thank you so very much for taking the time to watch. I do very much appreciate you taking the time in these longer off-season episodes. I know a lot of people love them, but they can be a lot for others, so I appreciate you taking the time. Please do leave a like if you're excited about year number 5. It's a strong team, and I think that we can do big things. Subscribe if you haven't already to be made aware of all of our uploads for this franchise mode series, career simulations, NHL 24 content coming soon, and much, much more, including our live stream series with the Pittsburgh Pirates on MLB The Show 23, which goes live at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday evening, so you don't want to miss out on that either. And if you haven't already, join us in the Discord server, link in the description down below. It's a fantastic community where we're talking sports, your own franchise mode content, but also, as we saw in this episode, you'll be able to chime in real time whenever I have a question for the assistant general managers. So if you want to be a part of that, Discord server is for you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, once again for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to year number 5 in Pittsburgh. The second half of our mandate starts now, and I hope that you will be a part of it.